I'm really excited to share with you three dear friends of mine, and all of which have experienced hair loss. And I don't want to talk about the hair loss solution that I typically do. I want to share with you the in-depth inner heart. You know my saying, beauty and change begins within. I end every program with that. Well, we're going to go to the inner beauty and talk about how they have made it through or making it through with the journey of hair thinning and hair loss. I've got Beverly over here way far on my right. In the middle, we've got Diane and our wonderful dear TV personality, but just a great band and rock and roller, which is Monica Robbins. So let's start with you, Beverly. Tell us what you have gone through in your journey from the beginning to where you're at right now, the feelings, the emotions.
Well, I started losing my hair gradually, and so it was sort of sneaky. It sort of snuck up on me in a way that it was taking me longer and longer to try to do anything with it. I was seeing more hair, but it wasn't something super drastic. And social media quickly got, my number, and I was buying everything and trying everything and just feeling embarrassed, and feeling some shame for the fact that I'm spending this money and time, and knowing that, other people are losing hair for other reasons, but at the same time, not looking and feeling my best. And it was every day, affecting me a little bit more and more in terms of self-confidence, or you get ready to go out or go somewhere. It's very noticeable. My hair it started to recede and go back this way, so I can't really wear a ponytail. You see more parts of my scalp. And so it was hard, and it happened over a span of years. And it's genetic. My mom experienced a lot of that too, and I saw her go through it and have a really rough time. So that created some anxiety as well, and stress, knowing where I was headed.
The stress that is created, if you talk to a dermatologist, you probably have, increases the hair loss. The tension, and then there's the personal lack of peace, because every time you look in the mirror, or you're working and the kid has got to have breakfast and you can't get out done fast enough, and that whole journey. But you said something just a minute ago that I really want to drill a little bit deeper. You felt guilty because you didn't have cancer, or you didn't have this other issue, or you didn't go through surgery. And that I hear so often in my consultation. I feel guilty that even the ones that have cancer would say, I should be worried about my health. And, I feel the outer beauty helps make brilliant the inner beauty, and that brings healing. That brings a lot of different things. What do you do with that guilt when you start to feel with that?
The one thing I can say that is helpful to me, that I was able to have, enough awareness to catch myself doing and stop, that has made a difference, is to not be negative towards myself. So, this is something I'm experiencing, and I allow myself to acknowledge how I feel about it. I can't pretend I don't feel the way that I do, but it doesn't define me. And, I can look for solutions, and I can feel okay with the fact that I want to make changes that are positive, that it's okay to have the desire to want to look, on the outside the way I feel on the inside.
There's a little teaching that I have in one of my books, and it's called You Are Beautiful. And I have these little tags that you put on your mirror. They actually stick to the mirror, and they're affirmations. I'm precious. I'm wonderfully made. I'm beautiful. I'm loved. And I think that so often when we have neural pathways creating the negative issues, and don't watch the news, because there's a lot of that stuff out there. But in turn, on top of that, life has got a lot of stress, more now than I think when I've been alive. But in turn, those little cards, that simple little thought conditioner, can really, I think, help too, because it gives you that breathability for a moment at that point too. Diane, you've gone through some experience. Share your experience with us.
I have. About 10 years ago, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder that caused permanent hair loss in the temple area and somewhat above here. And on one hand, it was devastating, but on the other hand, I kind of told myself it's not the worst diagnosis in the world, and that, no one could see it. I was pretty good at camouflaging it. Several years would go by, and I just didn't even know what options were available. But the mental load of dealing with hair loss and baldness in our society, it can be a lot. It kind of can chink away at you every day with just little things like the wind blowing as you're walking to your car with friends after work, Or you're riding a roller coaster at an amusement park and you get to see those pictures that they took of everybody with their hair all back, you know. I mean, they're minor things, but just those little things can ching away and make you feel less pretty.
And that affects your whole life. It affects your marriage, it affects your children, your job and position, and nobody knows what's going on. That's the problem, because if somebody who loved you knew it was going around, even a husband, and we've interviewed husbands and what they go through when women go through hair loss, the reality is that they don't know how much stress is going through. And so now we have the dynamics of, okay, there's that moment that they pick at you just a little bit too much, or you didn't get the coffee done right. And all of a sudden we have another problem. Besides the hair loss problem, we have a relationship problem. And so finding that little bit of a pathway, that help, that success, and that was what the programming today was all about, is because I'd like to see women be able to connect together, because who talks better to women than women that are in that place, that have experienced that situation? You've gone through a different kind of hair loss. Tell us about your experience.
In 2019, I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I wasn't supposed to lose my hair. They made a big deal about the fact that they didn't have to shave my head, and they only had to shave just where they were going to cut, and it was going to be a 10-inch scar. And I was so excited. I thought, you know, wow, medical advancement. And I had the surgery, and then 3 weeks later, when I was finally able to get in the shower and wash my hair, all of a sudden my hair started coming out in clumps. No one told me that having head trauma, and just from the surgery alone, can cause hair loss. I didn't know this. Nobody ever mentioned it to me. And then I found out by doing research, but it was devastating and it was horrifying. I thought I was going to get through this with just one little extra part. Had no idea I was going to deal with a bald spot the size of my palm on a place where you can't put hair extensions. So I'm on television. I had to figure this one out, you know, in a very quick, fast way. Yeah, and then deal with the public. And I think, you know, the only thing that social media was another thing. I thought, like, what am I going to do? I started looking for supplements. I started looking at everything. And the one thing I decided to do very, very quickly was own it. And I figured, you know what, because I was afraid I was going to be doing a live shot somewhere and the wind was going to blow and everyone was going to see it. So I figured, if I don't get in front of this first and tell everybody, this is what happened to me, I'm going to educate other people. And if anybody's got a problem with it, sorry, I already told you first.
That's good. That's good.
Powerful.
And, you know, it's interesting because Annie, you met Annie. She's had alopecia since she was 7. She's been with us through Bleeds for Kids, and now is an adult and a mom of 2. But it's interesting because she just over the last couple of years was able to go with or without. And she said a very similar words that you said, I got to get out in front of this, because she was in a marketing company. She has a great career, but she watched her kids and she didn't want this thing to embarrass them or whatever, but she had to get first in front of it. And I love what you said, because if we face that, now I tell my clients that go through medical chemotherapy loss, don't hide behind this hair. And I've shared with you, Diane, don't hide behind this hair. Don't tell everybody and put a sign on, I'm wearing hair, or, you know, I'm using a product or something, but be comfortable with that self. But that's easier said than not. What is the dynamic there with your hair loss? I mean, tell me the dynamics at home. What has helped that relationship going through this journey of hair loss?
I think in my relationship, you know, my husband always just wants me to, he sees me stressed, he sees me frustrated. We're trying to go out to dinner, we're trying to get out the house for something, and I'm scrambling, and he can see my stress, right? You know, like it's not matching how the rest of me is trying to do.
Smoke, he's going up.
Well, Eddie can see it, and I think, you know, he can't fix it, which is hard, because as we've talked about, wanting to fix it. And, you know, there's been times where he's tried to be like, you look great, let's just go, or you look beautiful no matter what. And as kind as that is in that moment, he's realized that, at least for me, it's a little bit kinder to just be like, I'm sorry, this is so frustrating, just for that moment. And then, it's like you feel seen. Anytime you feel like, okay, somebody validates a little bit and it can be present with you, then I feel like that moves the needle a little bit. So it's like, yeah, you weren't able to fix it, but it is what it is. And, we can still go have a great night.
It's interesting. I learned something with my wife, Zena, gorgeous. Okay. And she's married to someone who knows about hair and all this stuff. And she's a hairdresser too, which makes it even worse because she'll come out and say, how do I look? And I always want to say gorgeous because I'm looking past the clothes and past it. This is my wife, my best bud. And she told me about 2 years ago, please, just give me the truth. And it's been an amazing development because if I really see, I would like to have her hair pulled back a little bit over here. Now I got a little bit of advantage being a hairdresser, but in turn, I will share with her. Or if the dress, it's too long. I'll share with her. But to the husbands watching this, it's got to be gentle. It's like, you got to be like, a soft-boiled egg. It's got to be really sensitive. And I think that's where the male who wants to fix it gets angry when he can't, and then tries to anyways, makes a mess out of the situation. And to me, relationships, especially husband and wife, it's the top of the list. And so it's great that he is, and you've communicated that as well. Oh, that's good. How about you and your husband?
It's been a journey. It's been my personal hair journey, and he's been along, and he has been wonderful at sitting back and waiting for me to come to him if I have something to say, and he will listen. And I know that anything I've thought about doing, he is fine. Just whatever you want to do, And we had some friends, some male friends that had hair transplants, and he came to me one day and he said, do you think that could be something you'd be interested in? Because we could check it out. He was even talking, we could go to Turkey, whatever, So I always knew this is like my journey, that I had to do it the way I wanted, but whatever I chose, that he would be right there. So.
And then you just go fly an airplane.
Exactly.
Yeah. Her husband's a pilot, and they go little jaunts. I take my wife on the bike.
Not quite the same.
It's all Zen adventure. She feels like she's flying. She's
I bet.
How about you? Your husband has done a couple of things, because I'd like to hear both sides. You're a celebrity. I know you're not going to accept that, but you are in our town, and you're an entertainer, and you also are a wife and a real person who's gone through some medical issues. Man, what is he like?
Yeah. He looked at it from that perspective too. He understood that for what I do on both jobs, image is everything. And I think, as frustrating as it was for watching me have to go through this, he knew I had to.
Mm-hmm.
But you might remember when my situation happened and I had just gotten everything fixed, and I had the piece put together and I had my hair back together and I got back to work. COVID happened.
Yes.
And then we were sent home, and he was put in a position where he had to help me take it off and put it back on and wash it, and because I couldn't do it by myself. And then it got to the point where he's like, no, you're done. We don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. And he actually helped me. He's like, let's comb it over and we're going to fix this. And he became my field producer and would stand in my office and just basically be like, yeah, we can't tell. You're good. And then that was it. I was done with him being in my office. As long as I had enough hair to hide it. And like you said, I need him more than anything. He has to be honest with me. And we were good. And I also found tips. I found hair fibers that I could spray, and I could hide it because, instead of having a big white spot there, I could spray, and it camouflaged everything. bingo, perfect. So when I couldn't have what I wanted, I found things to fill in, and literally. But
no pun intended.
Yeah, no pun intended. But it helped, and then luckily for me, my hair started growing back, but not completely. I still have a bald spot there that's never going to come back. And you were right, you called it. And but and then 2 more brain surgeries. My hair, I go through the same thing 2 more times. But now I know what to expect. The most important thing for me was to let other people know who face this similar journey. If you're going to have any surgery on your head, people need to know that head surgery is head trauma, and you can lose your hair from that.
It's very similar when somebody hits a windshield in a car accident.
Yes.
They hit that trauma and they're okay. They might not have even broken their head open.
Right.
That trauma cultivates a release of a lot of the follicles, and it can continue to go on, or it can stop and make its own mind up at that point.
Right.
And you've given some beautiful, beautiful premises. One of the advices of one of our professionals that were here this weekend talked about, after she goes through the emotions with a client, she gets emotional because what they're going through. So she leaves the room, takes those breathing, cleansing breaths, and washes her hands. She washes it down. It's almost like, what was that? South Pacific, I washed that man out of my hair. But she goes through this little ritual that helps her. You remember Deborah went through that, and it's really given her the ability as a professional to get through this. I'm sure doctors have that, especially surgeons have that kind of somehow to release it. How would you advise anyone to release some of the tension, if nothing else?
Well, I think the more stressed or anxious or overwhelmed we get, we start to be way more in our head and not in our body. So anytime you can do anything that's grounding to you to get just back in the, sometimes at work we'll teach like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5 things I can see, 4 things I can hear, 3 things I can, touch, 2 things I can smell, 1 thing I can taste. Just even thinking about that now is sort of switching over your nervous system. You're coming back out of all those spinning thoughts in your head and the anxiety and the spiraling, and and then you can incorporate the breathing into that, and that just gives you almost like a reset. I think
That's really deep.
And I do a lot of that same stuff. It really does help. And then I would tell myself, everybody in this world has something that they don't feel good about themselves. And so 1, go into the world and try to be a little bit nicer. But 2, just realize no one's looking at you the way you're looking at yourself, and
because we think everybody's, look at it, what's the song? The guy walks in the room and he thinks everybody's looking at him, and that's really good, because I think if we can change our perspective of what's happening outside, it's easier to then go inside and change the perspective of our own. That's really good.
Get over yourself. You're not on that. Love that. Yes. I am a huge believer since my journey began. My go-to is shift your perspective. And first of all, empowerment is owning it. You know what? To your point, exactly. Everybody's got something going on. And you know what? This is mine. And be happy, everybody, that you don't have to walk in my shoes. And believe me when I tell you, I'm thrilled I don't have to walk in yours. So this is mine, and get over it. I deal with it, and I'm glad this is what I have to deal with and not something else. And if I can be somebody else's survival guide, that's what I was put here for. And it's just so I lost a little hair. We can fix it. There are things out there. So do your homework, find things. Don't shift your perspective and realize there are so many other people out there who have so many other worse things than you do. And that's how I get up every morning. I remember there's somebody else laying in bed who's having a much rougher time getting out of bed than I do. So shut up and get your butt out of bed. That's how I
read. I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. There's the scripture that says, take captive every thought. And that's what you all talked about. Take captive every thought. And I think that I'm going to make a gift to all 3 of you, those cards of the 21-day messages that you can use. And for the listening audience, everyone that contacts us through our comments down below, we're going to give you a set of 21-day makeover, and it'll give you the affirmations of your beauty, no matter what the circumstances are. And you've heard 3 perspectives completely different. And that's what we want to do here on our program, to help you find answers to your solutions, not only the outside, but especially the inside as well. You guys, way over what I expected. I expected a lot, but thank you, each and every one of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Remember, beauty and change begins within you, and you've heard that in real life right now. So live it, own it, and change your concept, and just absolutely take a deep breath, right? All right, see you soon.